good way because it's kind of sunny out. So it's okay.
How are you?
Wind. Yes. It was through. Yeah. And I love it. It's downstairs.
I'm gonna unlock mine. I'm gonna unlock it.
Yes.
You know, I'm going to shoot soon. This one right here. Oh my God. I'm so like so tired.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Ready to go? Rock and roll, Linda?
Yeah.
We're gonna start. Yeah, perfect.
It's in the filler category.
3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1.
Yeah, we'll just do it.
And you're live.
Cool, yay! Welcome VAIFers. I'm Zohra, and I'm here today with Peter Hawley, the director of the Illinois Film Office. Welcome. Thanks for being here. So we wanted to chat with Peter about filming in Illinois. This is the perfect person to ask questions about. I know our viewers, and I'm an independent filmmaker as well. I want to know about Illinois tax credits, filming in Illinois. What does this mean? What does that mean?
So Illinois is about a north of $500 million film industry, and largely that's because of the film tax credit incentive. So simply put, 30% of all of the spend you do in Illinois vendors, Illinois residents, you get a tax credit to play off of your Illinois tax liability. But you can get that certificate which I signed, and you can sell it, and you can sell it in probably 48 hours very easily for 95 cents on the dollar, 94, 95 cents on the dollar. So the simple math is you make $1 million film, all Illinois spends, so actors, talent, vendors, all that sort of stuff. You're going to get $300,000 back when you're all done, and if you don't have a $300,000 tax liability, which I hope you don't, but it would be nice if you do, you can then turn around and sell it to someone who does, a company, an organization, and a super rich person, and you've got $290 grand, $280 grand back in your pocket on your $1 million film already. And that's simply why people come to Illinois to make film and TV shows. So for television, and I was just talking about Dick Wolf, for TV you can do that tax credit on every single episode. So that's why Illinois has so many TV shows, because Dick Wolf takes advantage of it 22 times a season for Fire Meg and PD, whereas Jordan Peele, who just produced Candyman, or Say My Name is what it's going to be called when it comes out, one tax credit.
Okay. So how does an independent filmmaker go about finding these financiers, companies, a rich person to purchase?
Well, that's easy. I mean, if you go to the Illinois Film Office website, you'll see brokers on the list. And so, but the hard part is to get the money, to get the film made, to get the certificate, right? So these are the steps. Step number 1, you apply 5 days before shooting your film. And I should say one other thing. So a short film is a $50,000 spend for 30 minutes and under. Right? So 30-minute or shorter project, you have to spend $50 grand. 30 minutes or longer, you have to spend $100,000. Okay. So, but this is the difference between Illinois and Georgia. In Georgia, where everyone goes to shoot, Georgia, it's a $500,000 minimum spend anyway. So that's a big difference, right? So we are open to independent filmmakers. We're open to short films. I say this, and I probably said this to you the first time we met. The single biggest user of the Illinois tax credit by application is the Onion. The Onion applies for the tax credit more than anyone else because they make a lot of short form stuff, all right around $50,000 budget, and that's how they take advantage of it. In fact, the Onion moved from Madison, Wisconsin to Illinois to take advantage of the tax credit for all the video stuff. So to answer your question, you're making a project, and we'll go back to that $1 million rate. So first off, you have to apply for the tax credit at least 5 days before principal photography. If you're not 5 days out before principal photography, you've lost it. So you apply, you get something called approved production certificate, APC, accredited production certificate, with my signature on it that says essentially, if the state of Illinois says if you do what you say you're going to do, make this $1 million film, when you're all said and done, you will have a $300,000 certificate back. So a clever producer can take that piece of paper before you make it and leverage it into getting some money for it. You can say, look, if I do this in a year, 9 months, when the project's over, you're going to get $300,000 back. The state of Illinois says it. That guy Peter Hawley wrote his name on it. Therefore, it's as good as gold. And you can find people from you in advance or give you the money in advance against it. Now, you still have to spend $1 million to get your $300,000 certificate back. So that's step number one. Step number two, there are a lot, is what you were saying earlier, there are a lot of organizations here in Chicago and where we are. Chicago Media Angels, Argonaut, I can keep going down the list. Go to Stage 18, go to IFP, and you'll find people who are interested in investing in films. Okay? But the fact that you can sit there and say, look, if I do X, make this film for $1 million, I'm going to get Y, $300,000 back. That gives you some startup money right there. I mean, suddenly people aren't risking all that money. I mean, then if you make $300,000 back plus the $300,000, you know, you're 400 grand in the hole. That's not horrible. You know, that when I made a film 25 years ago, there was no such thing. And, you know, it was beg, borrow, and steal, and you get the money and then you sell it and all that kind of stuff. So here, if you can do it, you get $300,000 coming back to you no matter what.
So I was working on a project before, and we went through the similar process. So we found a broker, a financier, to buy against the tax credit.
Right.
And then the process was, oh, well, then we need the film projections, the sales projections, you know, so we hired a company to do this. And then ultimately, the financier was like, oh, we just need a director, like a name attached. So it's like, okay, you think now we got this tax credit and now we're ready to rock and roll.
No.
It's still just this process, and it's just never
Well, the tax
ending.
credit just gives you, I mean, if anyone in this room who has a good idea and has the marathon, not the sprint, to raise the money to go through all the steps, they should be able to do it. I mean, if I have a piece of paper that says, if I do what I say, I got a mortgage for my house. I didn't put down cash to buy my house. I put down a little bit of money, and then I got a piece of paper from the bank and a bunch of creditors who said, yeah, he will pay this off in 30 years, and I got money to buy the house. I mean, it's the same kind of concept. If you work at it, you've got something that says, hey, this is good for, my example, $300,000, that's a big leg up. You know, so it's better than, I give you two options. You're making a film, and you start with $0. I'm making a film, and I start with a piece of paper that says, I've got $300,000. Who's closer to making that film? I'll take my odds. Yeah.
Makes sense,
Yeah.
makes sense. One more question. The difference between the Illinois Film Office and then the Chicago Film Office.
Sure. So Kwame, who's the head of the Chicago Film Office, I started my job May 1st. He started his job out July 15th. We spend each other, he and I have traded emails twice today on Saturday already. So the Chicago Film Office does this. Largely, they're in the Department of DKs, Cultural Affairs and Special Events. It's the same department that if you want to have a parade, Columbus Day Parade, picnics, events like that, the Cultural Affairs Office pulls permits. So Kwame's job and the Chicago Film Office job is to permit and help out in the city of Chicago. Right? The Illinois Film Office's job goes all around the state, not the city of Chicago, but we monitor the tax credit, and we bring in the business to the state. Right? So 98% of all the film production work in the state is in and around Chicago, but the Chicago Film Office is specific about permitting and helping out locations, and especially Chicago locations, dealing with Chicago PD and Park District and things like that. I'll give you an example. Travel Chicago 7 starts shooting Monday here downtown, taking advantage of the staging areas for the marathon. And it's a nightmare for Kwame. I'd rather have my job than him. Sorry, Kwame. But he and I talk about this all the time. But it's a real tough thing. He's using the CPD, Chicago Police Department, Park District, because they're in Grant Park, and closing streets all next week. Roosevelt Road, cutting Michigan Avenue between Roosevelt and Congress all week long in the evenings. It's really tough. That's what his office does. Whereas my office, our office, monitors tax credits, works on, we give people the tax break, and we do bigger picture things. I was talking about building more studio space this year, getting more people into the workforce and stuff.
That was segueing to my next question. Is there anything in the works that you'd like our audiences to know? They maybe more studios or?
I've been saying, and I joke about this, but I'm not really joking about this. Probably today, these days, 20 to 25% of my job is simply real estate. So this is a typical day for me. phone rings, it's a Hollywood studio saying, hey, we want to come make this show, project, whatever, in Chicago. We hear you don't have any stages, we hear you don't have any crew. And that's not true at all. But if that's the perception of Hollywood, it might as well be true. We are Cinespace on the near southwest side of Chicago is the second biggest film studio facility in the United States, behind only Universal Studios, right? That's not nothing, right? I mean, that's huge. So they have 35 stages there, and almost all of them are booked. Now, things are swapping out. Empire is going to end. That's going to free up 6 stages, but Fox is not giving up the lease, so they're going to put another show in there. But crew-wise, Candyman just wrapped, so that crew's going to open up. Work in Progress just wrapped, and they're about to wrap, and that's going to open up the crew. But if the perception is there's not enough stage, not enough crew, we've got to fight that. So we're going out. There's a real estate guy in the Illinois Film Office, actually in the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, and he and I, and Kwame, and Louis Ferrara, who's the assistant director of the Illinois Film Office, we are regularly going around looking at locations. A week ago, yesterday, I was at the old Zenith TV factory on the west side of Chicago, 1 million square feet. That could be Cinespace North. We're looking at that. I'm not telling tales out of school there. We're looking at a lot of opportunity zones where investors can take money where they would have had to pay capital gains taxes, put the money into opportunity zones, add some investment to that, and then they don't have to pay taxes on it for 10 years if they keep the money in for 10 years. So we're looking at a lot of opportunity zones. So that's one thing we're doing. So we're actively, really actively. My goal here is I've got approximately 100 days left, 75, 85 days left in the calendar year. Sometime before December 31st, I really want to see the press release, the news photo, a news story, a bunch of guys in hard hats and silver shovels, groundbreaking a new studio space. We're working hard on that. I'm putting money and studios together. We'll see what we can do. The other thing is we're going to start actively doing some workforce training programs in early 2020 to show Hollywood. We need to show Hollywood 2 things. A, we're breaking ground in new studios, and B, we hear you. We are trying to grow the workforce, organically. From young people who, you don't need to go to LA to get a job in this business. If you go to Cinespace, you go down there. 10 to 15,000 people on any given day go to work there. If you walk down there and go, hey, these people look just like me, I could get a job here. You can have a high school diploma, no college, and be in your early 20s and make 6 figures. And you don't need to go to LA to do that. That's to get that word out there. That's another big thing I think.
Well, that's great. Like, our various artists, if you have any, aspirations of working in the industry, this might be another opportunity for growth.
Yeah.
So, do we have any questions from any of our viewers? Anyone in the audience?
So I heard it's a $6 billion industry in the city of Chicago now.
No, not 6 billion. In Illinois, it's north of 500 million.
500 million.
Yeah, 6 billion is big. 500 million.
Well, here's hoping.
Yeah.
It's a future.
I said in the Tribune in May, I said, in 2 years I'd like to get it to $1 billion.
Okay.
Yeah. But no, last year was 478 million in 2018 in Illinois. This year it's going to be probably 550. It sort of depends. We got a lot of shows starting right now and going into the new year. So, March to March would be 550 to 600. Just sort of depends.
Yeah.
But it's growing. Yes, sir.
Can you talk a little bit about how you mentioned how you get calls from studios, studios and say, well, we hear you don't have any crew,
Yeah.
you don't have any. Well, I get that too. I'm in Los Angeles and I'm having meetings and I want to shoot a film here. I get the same thing. And I also get that there are no actors here.
No, SAG has something like 6,000 Illinois-based actors in Screen Actors Guild. There are plenty of actors. My favorite Chicago actress story is Amy Morton, who's on Chicago PD. Amy Morton, Steppenwolf actress, tremendous actress. Her salary, she's a regular on Chicago PD. Her salary is actually eligible because she's an Illinois resident for the tax credit. And there are plenty of actors like that. I'd like more of that. More and more of those shows that are going to be here for the long run should actually convert their actors to be Illinois if they're from LA or New York or London, and in some cases, convert them to, have them get an Illinois driver's license, and then they can take 30% of the first $100,000 of their salary and apply it to the tax credit. But I think there are plenty of actors here. There are always going to be some stars. The new season of Fargo is just about to shoot, and Chris Rock is going to be the star of it. Chris Rock is not replacing any Illinois actor's jobs. I mean, he's not taking a job from an Illinois actor. They hired Chris Rock to be Chris Rock, right? And so I'm not worried about that sort of stuff. But it's, you know, it's day players. It's the three people. I was watching as sort of part of my job. I felt I really need to watch Fire Med, PD, The Chi, Empire, and all that kind of stuff. And I've been in the film world here in Chicago for 30 years, and I watch Wednesday night. I watch those shows, and I know a lot of those actors in those shows. Those are Illinois actors.
That's good, so
Yeah.
it's working.
Yeah.
They're hiring
Yeah.
Illinois actors.
Yeah.
Great.
All sorts of great. One year, and then
Yes. At school, I work with a lot of undocumented students. Do you have any filmmakers among the Illinois filmmakers who are undocumented? Are there any projects in the works? And also, Bill and I are in the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce, and we work with a lot of refugee groups. So do you have any filmmakers that are refugees?
a great question. I would not know undocumented workers, but sort of by definition. I mean, you know, you don't go running to the G-man to say I'm undocumented, please help me. Right? I wouldn't if that was the case. I know there are lots of filmmakers who are looking at projects about refugees, especially, I live in Rogers Park too, so the Rohingya, that's a big story here, the Rohingya community, looking at what's happening, the genocide. I don't know if it's technically a genocide, I'll call it a genocide in Myanmar. And people are looking at making films about some of those refugee communities. I don't know, and just because I don't know, if there are actually any refugee filmmakers. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. You had a question?
How do you get a job at Sense?
So first off, you go. There are a bunch of other ancillary jobs at CineSpace. So there's all the studios where all the shows shoot, but also at CineSpace, there's Claire Simon Talent Agency. There is Michelle Hayes Talent. Claire Simon Casting Agency. Michelle Hayes Talent Agency. There's Able Cine, which sells production gear. There's Cinelease. There's Kessler Camera. They rent camera gear. I can keep going on and on and on and on. Go down there. Go to CineSpace and look around and see what's going on. Secondly, go to the Illinois Film Office. Go to the production guide. Get listed in the production guide, and then you'll start seeing who the production managers are, the UPMs are, and go that direction. But it's part of like driving people to just. If you take a tour down there, if you just go down there, you go, wow, look at all these people. And the production offices are there. That's where they are. Our summer intern in the Illinois Film Office, who's still a senior at University of Illinois Chicago, left our office and got hired on Empire and works Empire in the production office of Empire. I met a guy who just graduated from Indiana University who turned down a production assistant job on Fargo because it was going to be an office job, but he wanted to be on the set. And there are jobs out there for sure. It's part of it is networking and just getting in there and meeting people and finding someone who's already on the show. Especially the more work there is. I will tell you, if you want to get into the film business in Chicago, be a carpenter. You want to be a carpenter. There are carpenters. They are in desperate need for carpenters. Down at CineSpace, partly because there's so many shows, but also because there's union carpenters on job sites work an 8-hour day, make a little bit more money, but on films you're working 12-hour days, you're going into overtime almost every single day, and it's a 9 to 10 month a year job, so you have that. It's security, and it's a union job, but we need carpenters. That's what you think about. Oh, you need writers, directors, etc. No, we need people like that, right? A lot of people like that. Yeah.
So one question, last question. If somebody is, like you said, there's jobs here in Illinois, like I was an actor or at the time I was, who wanted to leave Illinois because it felt like it was just...
Yeah, too small, nothing happened.
Correct,
Sure.
and it was like I was wanting to move to LA, but then I started finding small things. How do you tell a person who wants to do what I was doing that you actually do have opportunities in Chicago?
Well, I say a lot, and I said just before we stood up here, I go, I'm speaking almost every other day this week. I evangelize about going to, filmmaking here in Illinois, in Chicago, Friday, November 1st, I'm on a live TV show in the Quad Cities, talking about, there's production, you know, Quibi, the Katzenberg's short form, Jeff Katzenberg's short form video platform that's going to come out in April. They're looking at shooting in the Quad Cities a feature-length show for that platform. I mean, he's got $1 billion in his pocket that he needs to buy content for, and he can't license content, they have to make content. So they're looking at the Quad Cities. Rockford has got a burgeoning industry. Of course, we have a huge amount of TV commercials here as well. I mean, if you are an actor, make sure you have an agent. Go to all the open calls, go to the casting directors, go to the workshops, talk to people. Next weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday here in Chicago, it's Industry Days at the Chicago Film Festival. You're going to see a lot of people. Kwame's on a panel. Cesar Lopez, who's the head tax guy from our office, is on a panel. I just get to watch. I get the day off. I get to be there. There's a pitch session where you see people pitching. Go to IFP. You can join IFP for like 15 or 20 bucks a month. Independent Feature Project. Their offices are at CineSpace. Join Stage 18. Their offices are at CineSpace. That gets you into space, you know, the place and the space, and certainly. And just realize that there's work. You know, here the days of one and done. You know, you made one show, you made one movie, and they're gone. That's all over now. There's tons of work there.
No, the reason why, this the last part of
No.
it, is that, especially women of color,
Uh-huh.
it's such a small pool.
Yeah.
It says a lot of jobs,
Yeah.
but we only get selected for a small amount.
Sure.
Which can be extremely discouraging,
I-
regardless of the age.
Of course. So, you know, in the big diversity movement, Illinois is the only state in the union with the tax credit or film tax incentive that has a specific diversity clause in it. And the diversity clause, it does not apply to actors because that is so much specific to the project. But, you know, I've signed it every month. Year to date, about 48% of all the crews in Chicago are white men, and 52% are not white men, which is a really good number. And I get the breakdown of African American women, men, Asian, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's a really good sign. But there shows Derek Dudley and Common, who are the co-executive producers of The Shy. They are always, hiring African American men, women, crews. Chris Rock himself is pushing for a big diversity component on Fargo. Fargo was looking at here or Toronto, and they were going to have to import African Americans to Canada to be background actors because the Canadian Africans, right, African Canadians, are more Caribbean looking and not African in Toronto. So that was going to cost them money to bring people from Detroit and Buffalo into Toronto. That's one of the reasons they're here, plus the tax credit. So there are shows here that do it. Michelle Hayes, contact Michelle Hayes at Hayes County.
Where could you go to try to book work for Fargo when it does shoot here?
So you've got to go to the production office, which is down at CineSpace. You can find the production office. Go to the production guide. They're quickly crewing up right now because they start production in a week. I mean, a lot of this stuff is crewed. I mean, location managers, scouts, things like that. They've all been hired. Of course, it's been written already. So go to the production office, and I said just start networking with people. I'm trying to think. Off the top of my head, I don't remember the unit production manager, but that's because I've got a bunch of things in my head right now. But that's how they're hiring people. You know, the guy from Indiana University I mentioned a little while ago, I talked to him 2 weeks ago, and he was just offered the job. So 2 weeks ago, they were hiring people.
Awesome. So, make sure if you guys want to reach out to us at various artists, we can help either arrange a tour at CineSpace, get you any information on any, production guides, any job opportunities, just reach out, let us know, and we'll make it happen.
Great.
Thank you so much,
You're
Peter, for
welcome.
everything.
Great, thank you. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Can you picture you guys?
Yes, please.